Salutations, my friends, and thank you for tuning in to another edition of Factions of Freedom. I am your host, Noisera, Freedom Faction, whichever one you prefer, and I have titled this episode Source Severance and Soul Smothering, simply because we're going to be looking at all the things that are going on which indicate just that. The fact that they're trying to separate you from the source, trying to separate you from yourself, trying to smother your capabilities, the strength that you have. But before I do, I have a few announcements. Make sure you guys are paying attention to Paradox Radio, because as I've always been saying, you can tune into this episode, if you're lucky, on Paradox Radio whenever we have it playing. We usually play the most recent episode whenever Paradox Radio debuts on Friday and Monday. So make sure you guys are paying attention to that, as well as our mini casts that we're starting to do. It seems like we're hitting on a hot vein whenever we're posting some topics early in the morning, and it kind of triggers people. It really makes them want to start talking about these types of things. So we usually do conversations and little mini casts over those types of things. You can be part of them on Instagram, or you can always find them whenever we try to make them public through our Patreon system. And you can also find our archive seasons, as well as our monthly music and early access to some of the episodes and everything else that we're doing. So basically, get access to the Patreon, you get access to everything. But make sure you're also checking out our website, factionsoffreedom.gymnode.com. And we usually have it in the description bar, so you guys can check that out. Make sure you're checking out the website, because we put a lot of our extra work into the Patreon system, which usually gets the most recent feed or the recent submission on our website. So as always, guys, there's a lot of different things that we're doing, and I want you to take care of it. I want you to be a part of it. I want you to see what we're doing, because it is for you. Everything that we are doing is to help enrich you, help better you, and help put out the content to diversify the information, because we believe that you guys deserve it. You see. So with that being said, let's get into the episode. So as I said before, I had titled this one Source Severance and Soul Smothering, simply because we're awesome. You are awesome. You are capable of so much more than you think. You are more beautiful than I'm sure you give yourself credit for. And if no one told you today, I love you. But one of the things that kind of spurred the actual development of this episode was whenever, I don't know if you guys saw it, but apparently a mother and her daughter, or her mother and her son, decided to become a father and daughter combination. And that's just where we're at in 2017, the third month in. But hey, more power to them. But at the same time, I don't think I should know these types of things. This should not be popping up in my newsfeed. The same way we had to discuss the Vinny O situation, the genderless alien man from California, and the same way we were also confronted with Caitlyn Jenner. So maybe you guys can see the correlation as to what's happening here. But a lot of what it is, if you ask me, is us losing touch with who we are. I mean, these are things that people should be able to do within their own confines. We should not be affected by them. These types of things are going on, understandably, but it shouldn't be propagated. There's a lot of different things that we're going to cover in this episode, but I just wanted to talk about that. The fact that we are all individually beautiful, and a lot of what we're experiencing today, these days, is evidence of the age of Aquarius and how we're moving into it. A lot of these things, regardless of if we don't agree with them or don't want them in our lives, these are still evidences or pieces of evidence that allude to the fact that we are moving towards the age of Aquarius, towards another time of change, towards a spiritual growth. And I know it sounds strange, but a lot of the things that we have been confronted with they will continue to change. We there's no real way to explain change. There's no real way to explain diversity, to explain all the things that we're going to be confronted with. But at the same time, what we are seeing by having it propagated is the legality, or trying to make things legal, trying to make all of this psychosis legal, saying that it's okay to behave this type of way. As we've talked about on this show before, we should not have lesbians beating up priests in the middle of the street saying, "Tolerate me." And, it's only a matter of time. But as I said before, there's a lot of different things that are happening. And here in America, because we have people from all over the world that are paying attention to this podcast, people in the United Kingdom, thank you for listening. People in India, thank you for listening. People in Australia who are listening as well. South America, Canada as well. I think we have a few people from Russia, but the point I'm trying to make is we have a lot of different wide-ranging opinions who are paying attention to this. And whenever we go over these types of things, we're trying to generalize and explain the overarching understanding of this. So what's basically happening, because America has systematically separated itself from the source, is we're seeing somewhat of a backlash, somewhat of an explosion, and it seems disturbed. I mean, I'm sure all of you guys have seen the video of the lady at one of the Trump rallies with her middle fingers up, screaming "F you" to America. And she has her right, she has her First Amendment. But what we're seeing right now, as I said before, is basically the tolerance of insanity. And although these are all representations of a larger spiritual understanding, of a larger spiritual age that we're moving into, we've got to look at why this is happening, what this all means, and why ultimately you've got to know yourself within all this, you see, because you could easily be lost, and that's all I'm trying to illustrate, you see, because we're going to be talking about things like the deliberate dumbing down of America, things like mind control, brainwashing, cultural indoctrination, even things such as drug use and abuse, the fluoridated water, the idea of them trying to bring back the dead. All of these things are emblematic of the world that we're living in, you see. And so, as I've talked about on this show before numbers of times, the concept of them trying to circumvent our renaissance, circumvent our awakening, trying to put a capstone on it, that's basically what I'm going to be trying to talk about. That is the concept of soul smothering, because we as individual people, we are capable of so much. And so what they would like to do with this energy and with these capabilities that we do have is redirect them towards nefarious purposes, you see. And I'm sure, the common question that we all end up asking ourselves is whether or not this is real, or if we have souls, or if this is all some kind of dream. Really deep existential questions about our existence, about the nature of our existence. And that's totally natural. We all should. We should all start asking what is happening, question everything, you see. We most definitely should question the nature of our reality, as well as our purpose in this reality, you see. I think it's crucial for every individual to question themselves, and ask, who am I? What am I here for? And sometimes people really do get answers through symbolic means, through the universe, through actual texts, you see. But if you don't get an answer, that means you have to make one. You have to make your purpose. Even if God doesn't have a purpose for you, you're allowed to make a purpose for yourself, you see. And I wanted to start out by saying all these types of things so people understand where we're coming from when we look at all these types of things. This may be one of our more abstract episodes in discussing the things that we do, or discussing the nature of the show and having these types of things on. Well, this shouldn't be, if you've gone along to any of the episodes so far, this should be nothing new to you. But if you're a new listener, thank you for finding the podcast. We talk about some very strange things on here, and I try to sound as coherent as possible. But basically, now that the intro is done and we can start getting into the actual meat of the show, discussing what is going on. Where does this come from? How can I come out of nowhere talking about source severance and soul smothering? Well, if you've been paying attention, or if you haven't, please go listen to the previous episode where we talked about psychics, powers, and the ability of the person. You see, projects, powers, and psychics, where we looked at things like Project Stargate, Project Grill Flame, because we were literally going over documents, going over information, things such as psychoenergetics, the capability of the mind, the power that you have. But I know this sounds strange, the idea that you could literally make this world, this reality, malleable. That you, if you were able to discipline yourself and to know yourself, that you yourself could create a reality. That sounds strange, that you would be able to peer into the ether and pull something back. Because if you're looking at the video, you're seeing that the studies confirm that indeed we really are made of stardust. And we talk about things such as crystals and the crystal theory and a lot of this metaphysical pseudoscience parapsychology stuff, these fringe topics. What does it mean to be made of stardust? It's schnapps. It's carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, potassium, and I think sodium or sulfur. I'm not entirely sure, but these are elements found throughout our entire universe, found throughout our galaxy. We're going to be talking about things such as the holographic universe. There's so much that plays into all of these, the understanding of this. That's why there's no real way for me to come into this nicely. Sometimes you've got to bull rush into these types of things and discuss the concept that they would have you pour out your soul in 160 characters. That they would have you whore out your life for likes. Destroy your legacy for subscriptions. You see. And this is where we are, the separating us from the understanding. As we've talked about before, I believe that technology is only able to replicate that which we are able to have in us innately. I believe in telepathy. It's real. There is no belief. It is most certainly real. It's documented. It is a psychoenergetic capability. Remote viewing, so to speak. And these were tests, projects, operations that were carried out into the present from the 70s, post MK Ultra. So basically, once they were able to figure out how to mind control people through LSD and also electronic means, they decided to take it a step further. What else can they do with the mind? What can they understand about the soul, about the experience? Can they turn a saint into a sinner and a sinner into a saint? What are the qualities that it takes to change someone's orientation? And I'll tell you, flat out, what it is. It is just that. It's the indoctrination. It is the mind control. It is the brainwashing. It is the severance from the source. Severance of that which is beautiful, compassionate, and loving. What do we see on the TV every day? What does Hollywood promote for you? When we're looking at all these types of things, what we're genuinely talking about is dehumanization. Having no appreciation for life, for love, for your existence. The fact that you came from a source. The fact that you were born of your mother's womb. And if you're watching the video section, and unfortunately the people who are listening on the podcast, we are seeing babies that are being made without mothers. The process is called ectogenesis and allows for genetic engineering to alter traits such as hair and eye color, even boosting intelligence and resistance to disease. We could soon be looking at a new generation of humans. Where do you stand on growing people? And what's strange is I actually put up an article about this earlier today, or at least along the lines of it. The idea that the UK granted their first license to make 3D babies, or three-parent babies. All of this, as we talk about on the show, and I'm sure, if we have any new listeners listening to the show, this all sounds like, whoa, where is this guy coming from? This is radical. Don't worry, we get into articles, we get into documents, we get into videos, and we get into all these types of things to illustrate this very strange world that we're living in. But I put up an article today about how the UK is granting their first license to make 3-parent babies. I don't know why I keep trying to say 3D printed babies. Maybe because I'm trying to get around the idea that they will eventually create designer babies. And then you've got to ask the question, well, do these things that come from 3 parents, do they have the souls of all 3? There's a lot of metaphysical, spiritual questions that we have to ask with the territory that we're going into. And being here in the public, I don't necessarily hear a lot of people talking about these moral and ethical questions. One question I commonly get asked whenever it comes to all of this is, do clones have souls? Do these artificial humans have souls? If they're able to take a holographic impression of someone else's mind and place it in one of these synthetic androids, is that alive? These human-animal hybrids that they're creating, is that alive? Do they have a soul? For the human-animal hybrids, these chimeras, I actually believe that they are embodied by the souls of the fallen angels, of the Nephilim. But then when you look at the work of Steve Quayle and others who are out there hunting these giants, saying that they're awakening, you sorry to come in at a really weird angle with all of this stuff, guys, but this is what's happening here in America, on Earth, on the plane, on this world in 2017. These are the types of things that we are confronted with, or at least that I'm confronted with while trying to reproduce information for you guys to go back and digest. You see, we're talking about the mind-body-spirit connection. We're talking about how we no longer understand ourselves. We no longer understand what it means to be human. This is a question that I throw out a number of times in my Building the Matrix series and in the Transhuman Reality series, where we ask, what does it mean to be human? If we're redefining work with automation, with the technocracy, with the socioeconomic reformation, with the Fourth Industrial Revolution, if we are redefining work, because we can have robots flip burgers, we can have drones deliver pizzas, we can have drones deliver products, we can have robots literally in the office. If we're redefining what work means, that also means that we have to redefine what it means to be effective in this new world order. This is it. It's no longer a myth or a conspiracy theory. This is it. This is it. This is a great reason, if anything, for me to jump into something very strange that I saw pop up at a very weird news source the other day. They said that there is a reboot of The Matrix in the works. But check this out. I didn't hear this anywhere else except from Ray Kurzweil's blog, his news feed. And for people who don't know who Ray Kurzweil is, he is the grandfather of the singularity of tech transhumanism, of all of this. He works for Google, I'll tell you that much. Anytime him and Elon Musk are basically the people who are pioneering all of these sciences, all of these types of things. Ray Kurzweil, he talks about taking hundreds of pills a day to sustain himself, to stay alive. One of his dreams is basically being able to recreate his father through dreams. He works for Google. He's written 7 books basically talking about the singularity, the age of the spiritual machine. And he puts out the fact that there is a reboot of The Matrix in the works. He put this up March 15th, 2017. Think about that. Think about that. Let's get into this article real quick. It says that the Matrix is evolving, adapting, growing, and learning. Warner Bros. Is in the early stages of developing a relaunch of The Matrix. I'm sure it won't be nearly as good as the original, but The Hollywood Reporter revealed earlier this week on Pi Day, March 14th, The Matrix, the iconic 1999 sci-fi movie, quote, is considered one of the most original films in cinematic history. I agree. The film depicts a dystopian future in which reality as perceived by most humans is actually a simulated reality called the Matrix, created by sentient machines to subdue the human population while their bodies' heat and electrical activity are used as an energy source. So aren't we hearing Elon Musk and his charismatic, entrepreneurial, philanthropic self, aren't we hearing him talk more and more so about how he believes that we're living in some kind of matrix? So for Elon Musk to be talking about these types of things, and for Ray Kurzweil to be bolstering the fact that they are rebooting the Matrix, sounds very, very strange to me. But the article goes on to say that computer programmer Neo, which is an anagram for one, learns this truth and is drawn into a rebellion against the machines, which involves other people who have been freed from the, quote, dream world. Keanu Reeves said he would be open to returning for another installment of the franchise if the Wachowskis were involved, according to THR. They are currently not involved. Interestingly enough, Carrie-Anne Moss, who played Trinity in the film, now stars in Humans as a scientist, and Humans is a great show too. I would definitely recommend you guys check it out. All kinds of subliminal messages. Definitely check that out. And this is what we also see happening with these weird sex bots and all these other strange things that are taking place with that industry. I actually saw a article today where it was talking about should these pedophile people, should they be given access to child sex bots? So that's where we're at. But Carrie-Anne Moss, who played Trinity in the film series, now stars in Humans as a scientist developing technology to upload a person's consciousness into a synth body. And they're trying to reboot the Matrix. Warner Bros. And we have Elon Musk saying that I believe that we're in a matrix. I think we should talk about that. We also have Stephen Hawking saying these things as well. So I think that we should definitely look at whenever these types of people are saying they want to break us out of a matrix, but simultaneously trying to have us upload our consciousness to computers. What is Elon Musk talking about? What is Ray Kurzweil doing with his neural lace? You see, speaking of neural lace, this will be a good one for people who are curious, and this is why I said it's very strange that these two would pop up within the same time frame. That Ray Kurzweil would be talking about how he wants to, or Ray Kurzweil mentioning the fact that they could be rebooting the Matrix. But at the same time, we are hearing how, like Neo in The Matrix, scientists have discovered to upload knowledge directly into your brain. I think at the time we thought that was pretty cool, but as we've gotten older, we could kind of see the implications behind it. And this is from Skywatch TV, and it says that feeding knowledge directly into your brain, just like in the sci-fi movie The Matrix, could soon take as much effort as falling asleep, scientists believe. Researchers claim to have developed a simulator which can feed information directly into a person's brain and teach them new skills in a shorter amount of time. Comparing it to life imitating art, they believe it could be the first steps in developing advanced software that will make Matrix-style instant learning a reality. In the neo-noir sci-fi classic, protagonist Neo is able to learn Kung Fu in seconds after the martial art is uploaded straight to his brain. So before we continue on with this, like I said, we thought that was awesome whenever that took place. But what kind of freedom did Neo have to give up? Was there a deeper meaning to that we didn't catch at the time? You see, was Neo really free? Because these machines these days, with USBs, there's a lot that people can do. We really have to understand where we're going in this future. But I'll try to get into that and more in the future of this in the continuation of this episode. But for the sake of time, we've got to continue. It says that researchers from the HRL laboratories based in California say they have found a way to amplify learning on a much smaller scale than seen in the Hollywood film. How much smaller do you think it can get from that? They studied the electrical signals of the brain and then trained. They studied the electrical signals in the brain of a trained pilot and then read the data into novice subjects as they learned to pilot an aeroplane in a realistic flight simulator. Okay. The study, published in the journal Frontiers in Human Neuroscience, found that subjects who received brain stimulation via electrode-embedded head caps improved their piloting skills and learnt the tasks 33% better than a placebo group. Quote, "Our system is one of the first of its kind. It is a brain simulation system," explained Dr. Matthew Phillips. Quote, "It sounds kind of like science-fi, but there's a large scientific basis for the development of our system." This is clearly transhumanism that we're talking about. Clearly. It says that the specific tasks we were looking at was piloting on aircraft, but which requires a synergy of both cognitive and motor performance. When you learn something, your brain physically changes. Connections are made and strengthened in the process, called neuroplasticity. It turns out that the certain functions of the brain, like speech and memory, are located in very specific regions of the brain, about the size of your pinky. Pineal gland? I don't know. But what I'm trying to illustrate is the fact that indeed they are trying to figure out a way to get inside of your brain. This is exactly what Davos was trying to do towards the start of this year. They were trying to figure out ways to decode your brain, decode how you think. If anything, figure out a way to wipe your memory. And if you want to hear how our thoughts were on that, I would definitely say check out our minicast where we talk about these types of things. But what am I trying to illustrate by them trying to reboot the Matrix and upload information into your brain like the Matrix? If they can upload information, clearly they can delete information. They can delete parts of you. They can delete parts that have created your overall character, that have created the version, the current version of you today. We talk about the spiritual aspect of this. What happens whenever they delete that spiritual experience, that moment that you were able to come into awareness? That you were able to identify that there is something else more than what I was doing. What happens whenever you allow for yourself to be given over? That's why it's called programming. That's why it's called mind control. That's why it's called brainwashing. This is what the Facebook is. This is the Facebook agenda. It is a matrix within a matrix. It's an internet ghetto. Yes, we broadcast on there. Yes, Instagram is a byproduct of this. But we use these platforms to get this message out. We use their tools against them. Yes, this is brainwashing. Yes, this is indoctrination. But to what? Do you want to be like the mindless swaths of protesters at the inauguration day who were arrested? I think it was over 200 of them got arrested. Or do you want to be part of the people who were able to identify that we are in a tremendous time of change? And you can be a part of that. You can be capable of that. That's what we led into the episode with, understanding your beauty, understanding how capable you are, what you're able to do. But when they dehumanize us, when they say we're just a bunch of angry protesters that need to be run over because we're in North Dakota blocking a pipeline being constructed, you're buying into this. You're buying into this anti-human mentality, this transhuman mentality, this elitist lifestyle, this mental eugenics. You see. So what does all of this mean? It means that they're trying to make us less than. It means that we're capable of so much more. It means that there is so much more to the human experience as well as our history than we're able to tell. This is why it's taken years for us to figure out ways to get a NASA heliophysicist to admit that they have been spraying us with mood stabilizing drugs. They want a docile population. They don't want people who are able to uprise and call out their injustices and say how sick they are. Speaking of which, I think this would be a good time to quickly mention. I had a great conversation with someone from Venezuela who is saying that President Nicolas Maduro is corrupt and wicked. He took the flag of the revolution and crumbled Venezuela. And I agree, my friend, as we talked about, I definitely agree. But as you see in this article, the Venezuela president says that the CIA is using its drug war to frame and jail Venezuelan officials. Now, whether or not this is true, I have my own opinions on Nicolas Maduro as well as the CIA and the drug war. I believe that the drug war is a war on us. It is a way for them to imprison us and to lock us up to keep us in the system. I also believe that Nicolas Maduro is very corrupt. This is why people are literally killing zoo. They have killed the animals in the zoo. This is why so many different things in Venezuela are taking place, as we've talked about with fingerprints for food, as well as some of the poverty, the extreme poverty that's taking place, the crime that's also being festered there and being fed into, and the CIA is just manipulating it. So all of this is evidence of them trying to sever us from the source. Understand how we can be more, simply because we are trying to survive. They have got us pulled into this wicked system, this new world order control system, and we have to ask ourselves, versus this control system and the awakening, what will take place? So when we look at how that they could be using drugs to imprison Venezuelan officials, to imprison most of the African American population in America, it's not even about race at that point, just to imprison an entire generation of people, generations on generations of people, with drug use and drug abuse, and what's even crazy is a lot of these things are over the counter. Right there, where you guys are seeing in the news ticker that the city, I think it is a city in Washington, is suing the Purdue Pharma, the makers of OxyContin, for flooding the streets with pills. This is because we're figuring out that pharmaceuticals are evil. Well, I don't want to, I don't want to jump straight to saying that they're evil. They probably have their own restorative properties, but even in the Bible, it talks about how pharmakeia is sorcery, witchcraft. You see, but the overfluoridated water, the chemicals and the chemtrails, the chemicals in the vaccines, the things that they put inside of us, all of these things, they are to, as I've said before, smother us, make us less than, dehumanize us, not advance us. To clearly just do that, to make us part of this control system, to get us into this evil system that only seeks to further enslave us. Like right there, we're hearing how vaccines contain nanotechnology and cancer. They also contain fluoride, mercury, aluminum, red blood cells, even fecal matter. While we're also hearing how the EPA is under pressure to dump fluoride from the water supply, and this is one of the things that we try to go over in the actual previous episode in Projects, Powers, and Psychics, where we try to explain that this is one of the primary things that they are trying to do to consistently dumb us down. And I forget who the book was by, The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America, but it is That's exactly what it is. They're trying to figure out ways to dumb us down, to make us less than, to make us ignorant, to make us stupid, to make us obsolete, so that whenever these machines come in, they're able to replace us because we've been so slowed down. This is another way that we have to interpret all of this transhumanism. Is it that they're really trying to accelerate us, make us better, or is it that they're trying to dumb us down and make us that much more subservient and controllable? You see, this is why when we look at things like psychic abilities, the capabilities of the human mind, the capabilities of one individual, that is something that people need to understand beyond just the topic itself, guys. Because that means that also the deliberate dumbing down of America, that you guys should go check it out. It was by Charlotte Thompson Iserbit. Definitely go check it out. And basically, this is a book that came out back in the 90s, 1999, right there on 2000. But it's on point. Definitely go check it out. She was actually part of the Department of Education. She was a senior policy advisor, and so she knows that this was a plan, and she goes over it. This is one of those whistleblowers. But jumping back to the fluoride, to your pineal gland, to understanding your power, to understanding how impactful one individual can be, you're stronger than you think. As I said before, coming into this episode, I am humbled by the fact that I have multiple people from multiple countries listening to what we are doing. And this is why I try to have a legit show for you guys. I try to plan it out. I try to make it more thorough, more informative, more educational, more everything for you, because I believe that you deserve that. And as I said before, with the Patreon exclusive stuff, even with the information we're putting out there, we diversify the information because I believe you guys deserve it. You see, so there's a lot that comes with this, but the point I'm trying to make is you are capable of so much more than you think. And whenever we put ourselves in this situation, when we get engaged with everything that we see going on around us, it makes us, I don't know, there's power in numbers. That's all I can say. Real quick, I want to play two clips for you guys. One where we actually have James Comey, the director of the FBI, talking about how there's no such thing as privacy in America. And I think that's key because we need it. With privacy comes peace. And this is why I detach over the weekend here in America. I like to go camping occasionally, if I can, weather permitting. I like to go camping and detach away from all of this because of how overwhelming sometimes it does get. Because I believe that there is a certain peace, resolution, and understanding that comes with just doing that, with putting things in its place, and understanding the power that you give it, as well as that you have over it. So we're going to play this quick clip where we have the director of the FBI, James Comey, the one that sold himself out to Hillary Clinton, talking about how there is no such thing as privacy here in America.
And here's something that I don't mean to freak you out with, but I think is true. Even our memories are not absolutely private in America. Right? Any of us can be compelled, in appropriate circumstances, to say what we remember, what we saw. Even our communications with our spouses, with our clergy members, with our attorneys, are not absolutely private in America. In appropriate circumstances, a judge can compel any one of us to testify in court about those very private communications. And there are really, really important constraints on law enforcement, as there should be. But the general principle is one we've always accepted in this country. There is no such thing as absolute privacy in America. There is no place in America outside of judicial reach. That's the bargain. And we made that bargain over 2 centuries ago to achieve 2 goals. To achieve the very, very important goal of privacy and to achieve the very important goal of security. Widespread default.
I don't believe privacy should be offered up in the name of security. You should be able to take care of yourself. There's a certain, as I said before, calm that comes with privacy. And as we're seeing here in America, as the chaos is unfolding here in America, we're seeing what happens whenever people don't understand themselves in it, don't understand themselves in this 24-hour society, on this constantly live-streamed world that we're beginning to live in. Yes, these types of things were here always, but with the advent of technology, with the introduction into it, into society with it, we are now seeing what happens whenever this is propagated. As I said before at the start of the show, with the mother-son transformation into the father-daughter transformation. Whenever you don't know yourself in these types of things, whenever you're constantly being bombarded with all these types of things, there's no way for you to understand yourself in this. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that they are trying to make the human mindset, the human experience, just another hashtag. They're trying to make you just another thing that's trending. You see? Yeah, sure. It would be nice to be caught up in the mainstream of things, and it would be nice to have all of the popularity that comes with that. But if you have no soul, if you have no understanding when it comes to all this, you're just going to be another pawn. You're just going to be used, so to speak. So in this actual video, we heard how James Comey was talking about how even our memories could be altered. Here we go again, back to the concept of them trying to mess with our minds. More of this mass mind control. You see. But as I said before, is this because we've been so dumbed down that they've allowed for these types of things to take place? So I'm going to play for you guys a quick clip of Flippy, the burger robot, the new burger robot that will take command of the grill in 50 fast food restaurants. Miso Robotics. The floppy robot can be installed in any commercial kitchen. It uses thermal sensors, computer vision, and attachable tools to cook burgers. Ooh. The robot plates burgers but leaves humans to do the finishing touches. AI software allows Flippy to learn and do new tasks and make new recipes over time. Oh, look at that. So maybe they can just upload one of their little algorithm programs up to Flippy and he can make me a double meat grilled cheeseburger with grilled onions and mushrooms. Ooh, mustard instead of mayo, please. But what I'm trying to get at with looking at this type of stuff is they are trying to dumb us down. They're trying to make us simple. They're trying to make us less than human. They're not trying to have a pro-human society, a pro-human existence. This is the transhuman reality. This is what happens whenever they try to separate us from our source, sever us from what we understand, smother our soul, smother the capabilities of what we're able to do. Right there. I just fell into it simply because of the lure of a burger. And this is what this society offers. Because it's supposed to be calm. It's supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to look deadly. It's not supposed to lure you in. Like lambs to the slaughter, we're not supposed to know that we're going to our end. This is why they're trying to pacify the population. This is why they're trying to spray us with all kinds of chemicals. This is why they're trying to tell you that you're not beautiful, that you're not capable. You shouldn't worry about these types of things. People protesting in North Dakota about a pipeline and saying that water is life, letting that be their motto. You shouldn't worry about that. If anything, you should hit those protesters. You shouldn't worry about whether or not Portland is okaying the concept of after-school Satan for elementary school kids in a time of Pizzagate and Pedogate, whenever we're hearing about all kinds of people, officials, military people, all businessmen, entertainment individuals, everybody being involved in this pedophile scam. No, you shouldn't worry about whether or not Portland is saying that after-school Satan's okay. while we're figuring out that the CIA smart TV is spying on everybody, how Samsung is releasing a new TV that never turns off called The Frame. No, you shouldn't worry about the idea of them trying to bring back the dead. Bring back humans. No, you shouldn't worry about that. What you should worry about is this division about being tolerant, about whatever they propagate on the television that day. What's happening, before I go off on this jag, is that there is another Big Bang coming. And that it is the human awakening. Because what we're seeing with all of this filth that we're surrounded by, with all of these things that we are confronted with, these are sharpening us. These are refining us to be better individuals, to be better in whatever aspect that we decide to choose. Become a better individual. And this is one of the things that I would like to get into, if I can, in the show, if we have time, is the next generation, these people that are coming. There are souls that are understanding of what's happening. There are people who feel as though they're old souls. There are also people who are sitting on the sidelines watching it all burn. There are people who have no concept of the mind-body connection. There are people who think that sex is love when they don't realize that that's not the case. We have an entire generation of people who are seeing all of this all of what is being propagated, and they're either choosing or not. But what we ultimately have to look at is this is the reality that we are confronted with. This is where we must go. This is 2017. So when we talk about the evidence of psychic abilities being explored by scientists, this is nothing new. When we have people who understand the levels of consciousness and how it ranges from attracting the actual spiritual energy and transforming it into intuition, into reason, and all of these types of things into creating that much more, that's what we have to look at. Because there's a separation taking place. Yes, they're trying to smother our souls. I'm not sure if you guys heard, but apparently 71 children didn't go to school simply because they didn't have the vaccines. And we knew this was coming. We knew this was coming simply because of all of how they have been trying to promote this crazy vaccine agenda, trying to alter our DNA, alter how we transmit ourselves here in this universe, how we're able to understand ourselves, what energy we're able to pull from. You see, we don't see what that means whenever they're injecting us with all this formaldehyde, all of these formaldehyde, mercury, aluminum, all of this. You see, let's see if we can pull up that clip for you guys. It says students ejected from class over lack of vaccination identification.
Dozens of students were sent home from school today after missing a deadline to get vaccinated. The Rochester School District says 71 students failed to provide documentation that shows they received their vaccines. They do have the option of providing an official exemption for health or religious reasons as well. Kate Radix explains why the district is enforcing these immunizations.
The Rochester School District said the decision to prohibit students from attending class that did not have official documentation that they'd received their vaccines is simply enforcing a state law. Some of the vaccines required by the state of Minnesota include measles, mumps, chickenpox, and tetanus.
It's things that both parents and kids don't necessarily want to do. But what we do know about vaccines is that they protect kids and they save kids' lives.
School officials said they sent multiple letters to parents about the March 1st deadline before enforcing the statute. Of the district's more than 17,000 students, the district said 71
were sent home. 71 were sent home. My child would be one of those 71 sent home. And then I would be on the news trying to talk about these types of things, trying to talk about things like SB 277, SB 279, SB 217, HR 49, and all of the other things that we need to look at whenever it comes to these vaccines, because people don't know. People don't know how sketchy these vaccines are. You see, they don't see that they are literally altering the DNA of people. We have Bill Gates over here talking about how he is going to create a DNA vaccine. And if you ask me, that's pretty sketchy. That is a DNA specific bomb that he is trying to create, and that should not be that shouldn't be out there at all. That should not be something that is talked about at the World Economic Forum. You see, and most certainly it is. You see. So for people who were curious about that case, how dozens of students in one Minnesota school district were ordered out of class that Wednesday, the Rochester School District says that 71 students failed to provide documentation that shows that they received their vaccines. Rochester Public School Board members voted last week to enforce a state law that requires students to be immunized or be officially exempt for reasons such as health or religion. Students had to submit the proper paperwork to the school district in order to prove that they are exempt by Wednesday. Oh, so they did that last week. They did that like last week, and they expected everybody to get the proper documentation, as if everyone reads whatever the school sends home. So, well, like I said, that would be probably one of my children, one of the 71. But the Rochester School District said that the decision to prohibit students from attending class that did not have an official documentation that said that received their vaccines is simply enforcing a state law. So they're only following orders. Some of the vaccines required by the state of Minnesota include measles, mumps, and chickenpox and tetanus, as they said before. So, it's really how they went about it. It seems like they kind of went about it real shady. They just kind of slid it in there. Let's make sure people are getting their vaccines. But at the same time, I put this article up February 28th, 2017. It says that a newly published retrospective study nails aluminum in vaccines as unsafe, as if we needed to know that aluminum in vaccines weren't safe. So we've already heard that there are nanotechnology, cancer cells, and now aluminum in vaccines, and they're upset that parents don't want to give them to their kids. Okay, so how does that not smother the growth of a child? You see, when we also have articles from the Daily Sheeple that say that the CDC study accidentally finds that thimerosal, which is mercury, remains in the body far longer than previously believed. Far longer. Much longer than people thought. Meaning that they're having all kinds of after effects. And where else are we hearing these types of things? In Flint as well. With the Flint water crisis. It's not vaccines, but it is along the same crisis of where they are trying to further these developmental disabilities, further these developmental issues, further these problems for the next generation. They are trying to terminate, effectively depopulate and dehumanize the next generation. You see. And all of these things are why they are trying to, if anything, put out 3-parent babies, put out these artificial humans, talk about things such as consciousness transference, literally getting a holographic representation of your mind and then having you transferred into some kind of weird clone. This is the separation from source. This is technology. These are their earthly temptations. This is transhumanism. All of these things come from a wicked angle. This is why they are trying to, as I said before, dehumanize you, make you feel less than. They don't want you to understand how beautiful you are. What happens whenever you just take a weekend for yourself or a day for yourself and you pull back and you ask yourself, is this who I am? Is this where we are? Is this what I would like to offer into the world? Do people ask these types of questions? Do we see how they're destroying the earth, our plane of existence, and making us feel less than? Like I said before, with this bizarre transformation of a mother and son becoming a father and daughter, like, what is that? I understand it, but I shouldn't know it. That's what I'm explaining. This is beyond me. And yet here we are, caught between all of the social engineering, telling us how to think, how to feel, how to act, what to think. This is why we have Snoop Dogg over here releasing his video, his lavender music video, talking about how he's going to assassinate Trump. That's the trend now. This is the predictive programming. This is that mind control. This is what happens when you watch that television. As I said before, they're not trying to have you understand they're not trying to have you understand beta waves, alpha waves, theta waves, and delta waves. They're not trying to have you understand higher states of consciousness. They're not trying to have you understand the Ohm effect. They're not trying to have you understand that when you pray, it has been shown to open up new neural pathways. It's been able to show that when you meditate, it literally changes your body chemistry. We don't understand that being that we are, I think, what is it, 60% water? Is it 62? 72%. We're a lot of water, guys. we are a lot of water. Okay? So when they're conducting experiments at Burning Man, testing the science of the collective consciousness, they're basically doing cymatic tests, seeing what happens when all of these people who are underneath the influence are being affected by all this music, and if they can impress upon feelings with this psychoacoustic music, and if they can pass off feelings. We've already talked about things such as Gwyn towers and ELF towers and cell towers, the 5G telecom network, and how this is basically, if anything, propagating and spreading this artificial energy that tells us not to remain human, you see. When we look at these types of things, the Burning Man versus the 5G telecom networks, I feel like that's a really, for some strange reason, I feel like that would be a really good conversation with a lot of people. Long story short, what do you think about going to Burning Man versus getting a new cell phone? You know, sounds kind of crazy, going out there with all kinds of hippie spiritual people versus getting a cell phone where you can connect to social media. But this is where we're at. We literally have got to define what is this artificial energy that is promoting this social media degradation, on the flip side, that is having us ignore some of the more human aspects of our experience, some of the more spiritual, esoteric, strange, metaphysical, mystical things that we have got to encounter. This is why they're coming out with Illuminati Secret Society Super Bowl commercials talking about who's leaking the information. It's because people are literally getting tired with these types of things. We're realizing we're capable of so much more, and we don't need these people to control us. We're stepping into this power. We're stepping into what we are, who we're capable of being, how influential one individual can be. But whenever we give way to these types of things and let these types of mindsets continue, where we don't think to check the inserts of the vaccines, where we don't think to check what we're putting into our bodies, when we don't think to check what's being absorbed into our skin, how we're allowing for people, how we're accepting psychosis, so to speak, how we're trying to legalize insanity. You see. But at the same time, if you ask someone to pray for you, you're considered strange. You're considered You're considered weird. We have cops killing people every day, and we refuse to look inwards to try to find the solution. And that's the only way that we will understand how to be better. How do we change this? How do we offer up a solution? By changing ourselves, changing that which we can control. You see, these people, all they are doing is literally promoting their behavior. This is why we see how sick, how satanic, how authoritarian, and how crooked all of these people are. These are things that we've known, and they're externalizing the hierarchy. They're trying to get away with they're trying to get away with the natural human. They don't want us anymore because they know that we would call them out. So this is why they're trying to implement these robots. This is why we have Bill Gates talking about bioterrorism and population control. You see, and if you guys don't know, for anybody that is new listening, I have got a villainous hatred for Bill Gates.
We also face a new threat that the next epidemic has a good chance of originating on a computer screen of a terrorist intent on using genetic engineering to create a synthetic version of the smallpox virus or a contagious and highly deadly strain of flu. So the point is that we ignore the strong link between health security and international security at our peril. Whether it occurs by the quirk of nature or at the hand of a terrorist, epidemiologists show through their models that a respiratory spread pathogen would kill more than 30 million people in less than a year. And there is a reasonable probability of that taking place in the years ahead.
30 million people taking place in the years ahead. And they don't want us to fight for the basic right to have water, to film cops when they kill us. And this is where we are at in authoritarian 2017. They want us strapped down here in this fear-based anger physical reality. They don't want us thinking of higher spiritual truths, realizing that with this new world order, with this sick satanic mindset that these people have, when we play into their games, we let them win. As I'm saying before all the time, Renaissance over revolution. If we know ourselves, we can be that much more effective. We cannot let them smother our souls. We cannot let them sever us from our source, sever us from our understanding, from our ancestors, from our history, from our legacy, from the things that we are capable of doing. They can try to keep us trapped here with their 5G networks, with their electromagnetic frequencies, and with all the Fukushima radiation that they would try to please. But we are capable, and we are stronger, and we are waking up to their injustices. And that's all that we can do. All we can do is speak the truth and try to build a better tomorrow because of the today that they are trying to destroy. So as I said, try to build a better today for the one that they are trying to destroy. Create the tomorrow that they are trying to smother. Be the better person, be the bigger individual, and let's not buy into this fallen, evil, wicked system, this control system that the New World Order is trying to create. This is the culture war. This is the awakening. This is the time. This is the revolution. This is the Renaissance. And you are a part of it. If you're listening to this, if you're listening to me rant, you're a part of it the same way I am. In your own way, shape, or form, you are a part of making change. And we are all capable of doing something about it. And the only way to do that is to own up to who you are and realize that they are trying to sever you from the source. I'm not here to talk semantics on whether or not it's your God, if it's that God, if it's their God, or what it is. They are trying to sever you from the source that you know. They are trying to smother your soul, smother our growth, and tell us who we are not allowed to be. And I'm here to tell you, it's not going to happen like that. It's not. But that's all I really have for you guys. Quick outro announcements, update to everyone to look at them. As I said before, make sure you guys are paying attention to Paradox Radio, where you can hear some of our mini casts and all the other extra work that we're doing, as well as quick samples from interviews that we've carried out in the show so far. Also, make sure you're if anything, sign up for our Patreon exclusive membership system to where you can get access to everything that we're talking about and more. As I said before, archive seasons, monthly music, early access to episodes, even taking place in some of the discussions that we have as well. There's a lot of different things that we're trying to do with that, and I would hope that you guys take part of it. You're also able to go to our website where you can get the most recent submission of the work that we're doing, because we're putting out a lot. We have an entire different series going on in the Patreon system, as well as everything else, guys. Really, we diversify the information because I believe you deserve it, because I believe we all deserve to have it. Like I said, that's all I really have for you. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll have it in the description bar below. And as always, guys, stay vigilant, expose lies, and share truth. This is Noise Era, Freedom Faction, out.